Hello, everyone. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everyone. Welcome to this Fireside Chat. My name is Toyin Sanni, and I am the founder and Group Chief Executive Officer of the Emerging Africa Group, an investment banking group providing capital solutions to African businesses and governments. I am excited and honored to be taking us through what I know will be a truly engaging conversation with our guest today, Sitoyo Lopokoiyit, a mobile financial services expert who has managed mobile money in two large markets, Kenya and Tanzania. Having served meritoriously as the group CFO at Safaricom PLC, he was recently named interim CEO for M-Pesa Africa, with responsibility for a business with revenues of over $1 billion, growing in double digits. The story of M-Pesa is indeed remarkable, to say the least. It is a platform that has revolutionized financial services in Africa in a short time since its 2007 launch, now boasting over 41 million customers, 62% in Kenya. This Vodacom and Safaricom Fintech JV is an undisputed market leader and game changer. And personally, I cannot wait to learn more. What more this innovative business has in stock for Africa and the rest of the world. And so I welcome you, Sitoyo. It's so great to have you with us today.
Thank you, Toyin. I'm really looking forward to this session.
Fantastic. Now, you were recently appointed interim CEO of M-Pesa. Congratulations. And it has been said that your main remit is to make M-Pesa autonomous and independent of its mother brands, Vodacom and Safaricom. Is this true? And if so, what does that really mean for you?
That's a great question, Toyin. First, I'll say no, it's not true. The JV is a 50-50 owned company between Safaricom and Vodacom, and we created M-Pesa Africa Limited. And the intention of this is to accelerate M-Pesa across our 7 markets, but also to look at potential areas that we could enter in within the continent. I think key is we want to be one M-Pesa, the largest fintech and digital ecosystem in Africa, and that's the intention of putting up the JV. Kenya is well known for M-Pesa, but we know Tanzania is growing, Mozambique, DRC, Lesotho, Ghana, and other potential areas that we are looking at. So the intention is actually to really accelerate M-Pesa across the continent.
Very well noted. I have another question for you. You took over at a time when the pandemic was raging across the world. And so my question is, how has the pandemic impacted the business of M-Pesa? And do you see this impact being sustained even as we have vaccines being introduced and going forward?
First, COVID is a health crisis and an economic crisis across the world. And but one thing we've seen in digital services as well as financial services, it has been an accelerant. Whether you look at what Zoom has done, Microsoft Teams, but also in digital financial services, if you look at what Visa or MasterCard are also showing, is the accelerated growth in digital services. But I just like to pause a little bit on this issue of COVID and I look at it on 3 phases. One was the response phase. So in March last year, across Africa, we saw the lockdowns. And at that point, we started looking at how can mobile money, and especially M-Pesa, help the community in which we operate in. So we worked with, for example, central banks on lowering of 0-rating transaction fees below $10 to drive more financial inclusion because cash was seen as a means of transmission. We worked with governments to enable disbursements to vulnerable communities using our platform. And I think that showed the impact of mobile money, especially in Africa, in being able to showcase its strength in such times of difficulty. The second phase I see is as the economies are opening up, is the rebuild phase. And this is really critical for the future of businesses in Africa. As we open up, how do we look at SMEs and micro SMEs? How can we help them get back to business? So when we look at this sector, especially SMEs and micro SMEs, I see it in four main areas. One is in capacity building. How do we enable and educate SMEs in managing their funds, as well as managing things like inventory and so on? The second bit is on working capital. How do we provide them working capital at an affordable rate to be able to grow their businesses? The third bit is on value-added services. How do we add more value-added services to business? Can they do B2B in a digital format? Can we provide inventory solutions? Can we provide for them accounting solutions? Can we provide them cross-border payments and so on? Then the last bit I see is on connectivity, where the telcos can better support in terms of looking at SMEs as a distinct unit, or micro SMEs as a distinct unit, and providing them with connectivity, whether it's voice, data, IoT at affordable rates, and really targeting this. The third bit is the reimagined phase. So how will businesses be in 2025 because of COVID? And here, I don't have a crystal ball, but I actually, we've seen areas such as e-commerce really accelerate in the last 9 months. And I think somewhere like Kenya, where we were expected to be in 2025 has happened now in terms of the growth. So then how do we enable businesses, customers to operate in this new dispensation? So I see those three areas as key phases in the transition. But we've seen an accelerated growth in businesses going digital. As example, in Kenya, we had 157,000 merchants as of end of March last year. As of end of September, we had crossed the 170,000, and we are accelerating that. So we've seen a massive shift. And to your question, I think this shift is permanent towards the digital channels. But is how do we, as mobile money players, as people in the financial industry, look at this and create new and innovative solutions to aid the businesses as well as customers in the areas in which we operate.
Fantastic. So what you're saying essentially is that the pandemic has actually opened several doors to the future of doing business for SMEs, future fintech solutions, deepening your solutions way beyond payments into providing capital and other value-added services. I hear you very clearly that the future is bright. Fantastic. Sorry. Oh, yes. So I want to ask you that you have, over the years, M-Pesa has expanded into countries like India, Romania, Albania, and you have also withdrawn from some countries. And you have seemingly ignored some markets in Africa, including a big market like Nigeria in West Africa. And how do you see M-Pesa's expansion plans? I know you mentioned some earlier when you mentioned Ghana and some markets, but how do you see your expansion plans, especially in the light of the after, and the opportunities that it's going to be for African expansion? Thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Shane. And let me just say, the strategy before was slightly different. We were rolling out M-Pesa in markets in which we had a telco license, so we were leveraging on the synergies. The current strategy on M-Pesa Africa is focusing on Africa and look at opportunities within the African continent. But you mentioned Nigeria, and as we review the markets that we can enter into Africa, we do look at what are the key areas that or key things that we look at when it comes to like Nigeria. I think from 2018, when the regulations came from CBN and they came up with the Payment Services Bank, and there was a big debate in Nigeria between bank-led and MNO-led channels. So we do look at those opportunities and say, okay, what are the regulations? What are the opportunities? What are the potential partners across that? And right now, we are accelerating in our markets. We want all our markets to reach where Kenya is, and Kenya also to continue accelerating, but as well as we're looking at opportunities across each and every country in Africa and mapping it out and seeing where we can. The other bit that you mentioned, of course, we're looking at can M-Pesa operate as an over-the-top player, sort of like Uberize it, using that word. So those are the things that we are looking at to be able to take advantage of opportunities that you just mentioned.
Right, and I'm so glad you've spoken about regulation, because in my opinion, it is impossible to tell the success story of fintech in Kenya without talking about the role of regulators. So my question is this: to what extent would you attribute the success of M-Pesa to the openness and flexibility of the regulatory bodies within the East African market, specifically in Kenya? And are there lessons for other regulators across the continent?
I think first, the regulators play a big role and have played a big role in enabling M-Pesa since 2007. We just turned 14 a couple of days ago, because we started in March 2007. But it's how open the regulators have been. We work with them every single time. There's no product and service that we launch without the regulator. We actually have discovered that it is better to, even on the concept stage, to engage the regulator. A lot of people see the regulator as somebody who wants to stop, but actually regulators want to understand your business, to be able to protect customers, to be able to look at whether there are systemic risks in the product and services that you look at. Regulators actually have a lot of value and add a lot of value when we've engaged with them in terms of their insights. We are commercially driven. We are about transforming lives, but the regulator looks at it from a big and broader scope. They interact with other regulators across the world. So they do add a lot of value on this. And I'll give an example of the governor in Kenya, Dr. Njoroge, and how he led this approach when COVID started. He was a big proponent of lowering fees, of zero-rating transactions. And for 9 months, we saw that impact. And what he said actually has driven a lot of people into financial inclusion because of some of the actions that he actually led. So, I mean, you have to give credit to the openness in which the regulator has. Another benefit of work with the regulators is, like in Kenya, late last year in November, actually in December, the regulator announced principles of pricing of mobile money. It's the first time a regulator has put principles that they're going to evaluate us on. And the first one is on customer centricity. This is a regulator saying, I want you guys to focus on the customer. The second one is transparency and disclosure. This is when it's about use of data, as well as pricing, being very transparent in pricing. They've brought the issue of fairness and equity. They've brought the issue about competition and choice for customers. And they've brought the issue about affordability. So you're seeing a regulator being more proactive and actually engaging the industry for the betterment of the communities in which you operate. So I do give the regulator a lot of props, and I think it's really important. And we do see regulators, whether it's through the AFI Association, but we're really seeing regulators coming up and saying, how can we make cross-border transactions much more seamless? If I go to Uganda or Tanzania, I should be able to use mobile money. If it's a business, can they move cross-border? Can we lower the cost? So we're beginning to see the regulator playing a really critical role in enabling and driving fintech and mobile money across the continent.
Fantastic. You've mentioned a lot of words that are close to my heart. You've talked about transparency. You've talked about being customer-centric. You've talked about, of course, regulatory compliance. And you have talked about affordability, which is very, very important. Now, a question is coming from a participant, and I think it's a good question, and I'm just going to use this opportunity to put it to you. That is the cost of regulatory compliance a major consideration for you when you are thinking about expanding your business, especially across the continent?
I think one thing is we must provide a secure, safe, and reliable financial services platform. And if you ask me what keeps me awake, things like cybersecurity, AML, and for me that's not a cost. I think that is a must-have. So I would not look at it as a cost or a barrier. I think we need to protect customers. We need to protect businesses that operate into it. We need to ensure that areas of AML, cybersecurity are taken out with utmost seriousness. Even more importantly than actually the platform at times. We are now working, and the regulators challenged us as we become much more ingrained in the economies that we operate in, is how do you ensure that there's zero downtime in our systems, that we work very closely with them on areas of cybersecurity. And that I see, that's one area we don't compete with other competitors. We do a lot about collaboration to ensure the platforms are safe.
Lovely. What I hear you say is that a conscientious operator and a dutiful or diligent regulator working together make for a safe market. And at the end of the day, everybody wins. So
Correct.
This is very important. And it's a model that I hope more companies would emulate. Now I'm going to ask you, you've mentioned financial inclusion, and that is very important. For me, what makes a solution like M-Pesa, fintech solution like your platform, what makes it so groundbreaking and so game-changing for a continent like Africa at our level of development is the potential for financial inclusion. And so you have helped to deepen financial inclusion. Now, what next? What about areas of micro pension, for example, micro insurance, other solutions that speak to the excluded and to the unreserved? What kind of exciting and possibly game-changing solutions is left in the kitty for M-Pesa? Can you give us a peek into the future?
That's a great question, and we're all about transforming lives. That's our vision that we have. A lot of people ask me, how do you even measure a new product? I say, I'm measured by it transforming lives, and is it aligned to the SDG goals? That's a key performance measurement that my CEO asks me. Have you achieved? Are you going towards this? But on financial inclusion, when M-Pesa started, it was about 23%. In places like Kenya, it's 84% and above. In Tanzania, it's above 70%, and so on. But while that has been really good, financial health has remained relatively low. So financial health is at about 20%. So financial inclusion 80, financial health at about 20. So in this area of fintech and mobile money, we need to start looking at areas in which we can provide savings, wealth management, insurance, to be able to cushion customers on the shocks that they may have across as they live their lives. And more so during this COVID era, where we've seen businesses and customers' incomes get all these shocks. So we need to be more innovative around wealth management, insurance, push products such as the government bond in Kenya, Akiba, into more customers to be able to access those products and services. I think the other bit is also on opening up the platforms. So our open APIs, how do we encourage more developers and more fintechs to come into our ecosystem and innovate? There's more innovation outside M-Pesa than inside M-Pesa. So it is today, like in Kenya, there are 29,000 developers on our platform. I would like to see that 100,000 developers across Africa using our APIs to develop innovative products and services around financial health. So this is an area I'm very passionate about, is how can we uplift the financial health of the communities in which we operate. I think the last bit is just, as I mentioned, is on e-commerce and the opportunities that are coming across. The other thing, we also have to not only just open APIs, but for M-Pesa, we're looking at one API for something like e-commerce. So if you want to be in Spotify, you want to buy something at Amazon, then we want to have or any third party has only one single sign-on, and they get access to the entire M-Pesa ecosystem, so that you don't have to integrate in Kenya, Tanzania, Mozambique. You have one. So I think one of the key game changers will be driving financial health, as you mentioned.
Awesome. You keep anticipating my questions, and it's interesting because I was going to ask you next, what is the future of mobile money in your opinion? And how do you see M-Pesa sustaining its leadership in the face of fast-paced innovation, which is a characteristic of the industry in which you operate? And one of the things I understand is that by the time an app is ready for deployment, if you're not careful, it's obsolete already. So I love the fact that you have talked about opening up the platform, and you have also talked about essentially providing an avenue for faster innovation and coming even from outside of your app. So can you talk a little bit more around this? Thank you.
No, I think first, the future of mobile money in Africa is fantastic. We are leapfrogging the card generation. We're going into digital financial services. We're going to digital payments. But I think one of the key areas, and cash is still king. So even in places like Kenya, 85% of transactions are still cash. I keep saying mobile money can grow 20% year on year for the next five years, simply because of the opportunity that is there. But I think one of the key things we need to do is put a lot more focus on customer obsession. We need to be more agile as we do our things. We need to focus on being a purpose-led organization, or if you're a fintech, have a purpose to what you wanna achieve. But I think in terms of where I see mobile money going, I think partnerships will be key. The technology that whether it's cloud technology that we need to operate in, AI and big data will become key. We need to strengthen fintechs in Africa to be able to not only maybe compete, but potentially collaborate with the big fintechs such as Facebook, Google, Alipay of this world. So we need to strengthen, and this is maybe to the regulators and government, we really need to support African fintechs to get the valuations that fintechs across the globe have. You know, it's great to see what Paystack in Nigeria did with Stripe, but we should be seeing 20, 30 of those kind of deals happening. So I think the future is great, and Africa is set to really transform and continue leading in mobile money.
Awesome. I have just about 2 questions for you. Okay, and then a participant has a question for you, which I'm going to allow. But I'll take my own question first. And the question is this: to accomplish what we intend to do through fintech, there is a need to crowd in a lot of funding into this area of business. And the question is, do you think the technology industry, on the whole, and specifically fintech, has been able to attract the kind of funding that it requires right now within the continent, or is there a gap? And how do you see this gap being filled?
I think that for sure there's a gap in the continent. We've got great fintechs. In a lot of our markets, there are fintech hubs, whether it's in Nigeria, South Africa, Mozambique, you name it, they're great fintechs. If you look at the talent that is being recruited from Africa by the big tech companies, it shows that there's potential. Are we seeing large tech companies coming to invest in Africa, putting cloud services such as Amazon and so on? Yes, there. But I think we need support in how we position, how we look for Series A or B or C funding. We need more capacity development on that side for fintechs to be able to really get the valuations that they deserve. So I think there's a big gap on that, but there's also big opportunity in development partners and governments supporting fintechs to get the valuations that they deserve.
Very, very well noted. Now, one of the participants, Mrs. Njeri Garia, She's an investment director. And she says, when you say M-Pesa are looking at providing capital to SMEs, is this only via banks as currently done? Or would this be something M-Pesa would consider doing itself? In other words, an M-Pesa bank, digital bank.
That's a great question, Jay. And for me, we believe in partnerships, and we believe in opening up and broadening the base in which we operate. So we've traditionally partnered on a bilateral with one bank also, but we're looking at things like a marketplace. So if an SME wants credit, then you should say I want $1,000, and banks should actually compete for that and say I can give you this. We can provide the credit scoring capabilities, the collection mechanism, the marketing, but I think a marketplace approach is something that we look at rather than us becoming a digital bank. So I think opening up the platform and partnering is the right approach.
Fantastic. And of course, that leads me to my final question. And it's going to give you a chance to spend another 3 minutes or a little more to tell us exactly what you see as the future of M-Pesa. So what is the future of M-Pesa? Is it a super app? Is it a continental or even global digital bank? How do these alternative paths align with your multiple partnerships and effective diversification you have achieved over the years by partnering with mobile technology, with the banks, with telecom companies, with Visa, for example, and other such payment solutions? I do think the question before this kind of already opened it, but this is an opportunity for you to just talk to us and tell us how you see the future of M-Pesa and how you're going to go about driving it. Thank you.
You saved the toughest question for last. So, but I think first, the way forward is a super app. And why a super app is because what it does, it takes the best of actually what we do, puts it on one app. And then whether you want to travel, you go into the app, you get all your airlines, whether you want your food apps, whether it's you want your transport apps like Uber, whether you want, to pay for Spotify, all that will be within the M-Pesa app. So it is a lifestyle app. I want customers to look at it as much as they look at WhatsApp on a daily basis or Instagram. Because you want to travel, you should be able to go to M-Pesa app, get it. You want to do anything, your payments, you want to pay for your DSTV, you want to watch, we want to put content, you want to put gaming, we want to put... So the super app concept, if you look at it from what Alipay, Tencent have done, it is exactly that. But what it does is it actually allows all the partners to play into it. If you look at, you mentioned small fintech. So if somebody builds an app for a restaurant, then they have to put it on the Google Play Store or on the iPhone Play Store. Now, how will he market it? But if he could publish it onto the super app, then he has 41 million plus people who can actually look at his product. So that is just as an example of how we want to democratize this. We want to make it more open, as I said, and that's the direction we're looking at. But also remember, in most of our countries, still smartphone penetration is below 40%. So we're looking at how to enhance our USSDs to have the same capabilities, such that you're able to, customers are able to use our services both as customers, SME, or large enterprises. So in a nutshell, that's how I see it. But the future is really, really exciting going forward.
Honestly, it is exciting. I wish I was sitting right where you are, because from what I hear, you're going to be a part of every end-to-end part of our future lives. That's what you desire to be. Now, I have two more questions from participants, and you will only take them if you can do each of them in 30 seconds each.
Okay, so, I'll try.
Yes, Ofi Monet Kebe wants to know if you have a specific plan for Francophone countries in West Africa to help develop financial inclusion. And we can take the second part of that, which is what will be your challenges. And Jeanette Clark says, how do you demystify financial products in jurisdictions where cash is still king? You have less than a minute to answer these two questions.
So on the Francophone, as I said, we are evaluating markets, so no plan now. Right now, it's just evaluation of what's happening, and the focus is on our current market. In terms of demystifying financial services, you have to spend a lot on customer education. You must spend a lot on focus groups. You must spend a lot on how to reach your customers, because financial services is a bit more complex than just sending money. So you need to invest in customer education.
Thank you so very much. I mean, I can see that you are very target oriented because you did that in precisely 1 minute. So it's been a real pleasure talking to you. And I want to thank the participants for participating. I think this has been lively, it's been engaging. It's been nice to know that the future is a super app. And it's been nice to know also that you're looking for opening up your platform and keeping it as open as possible and providing end-to-end lifestyle solutions to meet the needs of Africans. And of course, expanding as far as you can go across the continent. Thank you so very much for giving us hope for the future. Thank you so very much for moving us into the future. Thank you for your time, Sitoyo. Thank you, everyone, for participating.
Thank you, Toyin. Thank you. It's great.
You're welcome. Bye-bye, everyone.